Well, colleagues, here we go again. It's funny how the Democrats like to suspend the rules when it's politically expedient to do so, but won't do the same thing to allow one of our other colleagues to have her opportunity to express her First Amendment rights. We heard the pro tem talk about some stories, but we only heard about one side of the story, maybe not the other. And I appreciate that the pro tem feels that this body, the Senate body, has such tremendous power in Congress today, and certainly over President Trump. I would say the odds of President Trump taking this resolution seriously would be about as serious as Planned Parenthood to post an adoption versus abortion poster in their clinics. Once again, it seems that we're here for the seemingly weekly dump on President Trump hour, and yet another archaic resolution that will carry no weight with the White House and will continue to fuel the divisive tone on the Senate floor. Here we just got through debating talking about a former president, and every year recognizing one that was governor of the state and became president. And here we see our third resolution now that's wharfed to the floor with no opportunity for any Republicans to comment on it. The third such type that we've seen on the floor of the Senate. President Trump has already committed to reverse many of Obama's policies, including those by executive action. I feel safe in saying that most people believe the moratorium or the memorandum written by John Morton, former director of ICE, will be discarded, and President Trump's appointee will provide a different direction. This Senate resolution is just another piece of feel-good rant that scores political points with a few and panders to the increasing fear and anxiety of many. This resolution does nothing to address the serious concerns that we face as a state. Worse, it drives a wedge even deeper into society by alleging that President Trump is using ICE to round up innocent, undocumented immigrants. Where was the outrage when President Obama deported over 2 million people, including women and children? This body was silent. Where was President Obama's outrage when Kate Steinle was murdered in San Francisco by a repeat deportee? Certainly, with the passage of SB 54, more innocent people will be murdered by undocumented criminal felons. This one-sided resolution ignores the reality of what's really happening in our communities, not just in the state of California, but across this country. Just consider the following, speaking of stories. Just recently, a landscaper in Maryland who was working to help his family back in Guatemala was allegedly killed by an illegal immigrant gang member who was twice deported in the last 2 years. Oscar Delgado Perez, 28, was arrested in Montgomery County after allegedly stabbing Christian Villagrán Morales more than 40 times, members. This was according to Fox News. Last year in July, Mauricio Morales Caceres, an illegal immigrant from El Salvador, was sentenced in Montgomery County, Maryland, to life in prison without the possibility for parole in the stabbing to death of a Salvadorian. Morales identified himself as an MS-13 gang member. Testimony indicated that he even had no remorse for his crime. This was according to the Washington Post. In May of last year, illegal immigrants Renul Vergara and Edson Benitez pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for the death of a 90-year-old Minnesota man they beat up and tied while they stole from his home, leaving him to bleed to death, according to Breitbart News. And last March, Juan Raso, who was in this country illegally and lived in Painesville, Ohio, agreed to plead guilty to a crime spree that included the shooting death of a 60-year-old woman, attempted rape of a 14-year-old girl, kidnapping, and burglary. His plea was to avoid the death penalty and accept a life sentence. This was according to Cleveland.com, a leading news organization in Ohio. If this body is going to continue to surprise Republicans with anti-Trump resolutions, as we learned when we came in this Monday morning, I suggest we simply schedule an anti-Trump hour on the floor every Monday morning. Let's not bother with pointless resolutions about how bad the president is. We can just start the session at 3 p.m. and let people get their anti-Trump tirades out of their systems starting at 2 p.m. At least this way, the taxpayers won't be forced to pay for the lawyers who have to write these ridiculous resolutions, and we won't have to pay for staff to analyze them. Even better, then we could just get along and get on with dealing with the real issues our faith should be concerned with, like creating jobs, improving our infrastructure, and starting to hold government accountable for how it spends our tax dollars. Just say no more by voting no on this powerless resolution.